All right, what is up, Utah fans? This is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest. And transfer portal and NFL draft declarations have been kicking Utah's butt so far. Hopefully, things turn around. Today, Sione Vaki and Cole Bishop both declared that they are going to the NFL draft. This is great for them. This is one of those things that's a really good problem to have when your team is so talented and so full of great players that they're declaring early. Now, this is a good problem to have and good for both of those two. Seriously, if you can go to the NFL and make a ton of money, you should go do that. I have absolutely no problem with that. But like I said, a good problem to have, but still a problem, right? It's a good problem to have, but it is a problem, and we got to dive in. We got to take a look at it. This is making the DB situation for Utah a lot dicier than we thought. Before we get into it, guys, make sure you smash that like button. That'll help get the video up to our Utah fans. We're going to talk about, excuse me, sorry, I got a cough. We're going to talk about a lot of different things today, though. What type of impact these guys made on the program, but also what do we have left in the DB room right now? Things are getting quite skinny. Things are getting pretty thin. So let's take a look at what we have in the DB room right now. As we go through that, please make sure you guys comment along with the video. I want to hear your thoughts and opinions. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we put out a ton of Utah Utes football content, and we like to make sure that you guys are a part of the community. I know I don't get to every comment, but I really do read them all, and I appreciate what you guys write. And then most of all, share this video with a friend, a friend that might be into Utah football, maybe not as big of a nerd as you, but you want to make him a bigger football nerd, bring him into the community. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk the Utah DB room, Sione Vaki leaving, Cole Bishop leaving. Let's take a look at what that means. All right, guys, and not to sugarcoat it, Sione Vaki and Cole Bishops were huge parts to this defense over the past couple of years. This past year, I'd say safety as a position group is equally as good overall as any other position group on the team. I'd say our best position groups this past year for defense were safety and linebackers. But linebackers, we had three really good linebackers, and safety, we had two elite safeties. So I'd say safety was probably the best position group on the team. We're losing both of those guys. Now, like I said, things get a lot more thin now, but it's not a desperate situation. A couple guys we can take a look at, and just so you know, Sione Vaki and Cole Bishop, both really good players for Utah. Sad to see him go. The guys behind them right now in the safety room that got playing time last year are Nate Ritchie and Jonathan Hall. Now, Nate Ritchie, a 63.7 PFF grade, but that's on 154 snaps. He's starting to get a little seasoned, and I did notice him. He shined at certain times last year. I will be real. There were games where he really didn't shine. There were games where I really did not love what I was seeing from Nate Ritchie. I'd say overall, if he does need to start a game, is he a guy that I have faith in to do a decent job? Yeah, I'd go ahead and say that. Yeah. Just to give you guys an idea, in some of these games here, he's got grades as high as an 80.2 against Cali at an 80.2, only 18 snaps, but still, Nate Ritchie, a solid player here. He also has games, multiple games in the 40s for grades where, he's a 48.8 against Washington and a 47.1 against Oregon State. Oregon State is a game that I can mentally remember as, like a tough grading game for him. I remember him standing out as a player that really struggled in that game. I remember noticing that pretty clearly. We've also got a guy in Jonathan Hall. He's another guy that got some snaps, not a ton of snaps, 55 defensive snaps, and they weren't all great, but he did grade out at a 77.8. Again, that's only 55 defensive snaps, so I wouldn't put a ton into that. I would say that's a concern if we go into this next year with Jonathan Hall as one of the like guys we're expecting to start. I'm not saying he sucks, so don't hear what I'm not saying, but I do think that's such a small sample size. You don't want to risk that's the guy. Another guy that actually played a decent amount of safety last year is Tao Johnson. Now he kind of transitioned to nickel corner throughout the season, but he did play some safety. Just let me pull it up here. So Tao Johnson, throughout the year, he played mainly he was playing slot corner, but 105 snaps at free safety for Tao Johnson. So it's not like he didn't get some experience there. The one game where he's listed according to PFF as primarily being a safety, so that's like the position he played, was the game against UCLA, and he had a 65 grade there. Coverage grade 62.2, run defense 69.8, and tackling 81.6. I also believe Whittingham made comments earlier in the season that Teo's true position is probably safety. It doesn't list Teo as a safety for the Florida game, but I would say I did see Teo at safety a good chunk of times in the Florida game. I thought he looked pretty good there. So I would say this, the safety room right now is not dreadful. Tao Johnson, Nate Ritchie, and Jonathan Hall, some combination of those three is not terrible. Now, the problem is what that does to the cornerback room. I think myself, like a lot of people, are hoping Tao Johnson can make up for some of the cornerback play we're not going to have this next year. I mean, there's a lot in the air, guys. I'm hoping Tao can go to free safety now. I'd say that's the best case scenario for me out of these three players. Now, let's be real. Nate Ritchie did get some real reps this year, right? 154 snaps at safety. That's no joke. So I would say Nate Ritchie's like, if he is a starter, it's not the worst case. He's probably not what I would want to go into the season planning for him to be the starter. At least hopefully we hit the transfer portal and bring in some competition, some solid, good competition for Nate Ritchie to compete against in this upcoming season. Because you don't want to just give Jonathan Hall or Nate Ritchie the starting spot. You want to create some competition. And as far as playing safety goes, those were the only Tao Johnson, Jonathan Hall, and Nate Ritchie were the only ones really getting reps last year outside of Sione Vaki and Cole Bishop. So let's also talk about what potentially we could be looking at for transfer safeties coming to Utah, because I do think that's a conversation we need to have now. All right, guys, and the transfer portal targets for safety, it's going to be hard to know too much yet. If anyone has any extra info, please go ahead and jump in the comments. I haven't seen a ton of safeties so far talk about how they've been offered by Utah, so it's hard for me to weigh in too much on who the guys really are going to be, but I do want to give you guys some of my opinions on who I think might be a good fit. So the first guy is going to be a guy named Akili Arnold. If we do bring in some transfer safeties, this is a guy from Oregon State, similar culture to Utah's, and he would be staying in the same, close by-ish part of the country. He graded out at a 79.9 on 664 snaps last year with an 85.7 coverage grade. So this guy is in a very, very good safety. That's significantly higher than Sione Vaki and Cole Bishop's grades. And every year he got better. He's been playing for a while. Looking at his resume here, I'm guessing he only has 1 year of eligibility, but he got better every single year and then took a big time leap this year. This guy would be a big time signing for Utah. But I would also say Whittingham made some comments about if we had the NIL money, we probably would have kept some guys before those two guys declared, but I'm guessing he was foreshadowing this and kind of knew this was coming. The good news, guys, is there is a ton of good safeties in the transfer portal. Just so you guys know, there are 4-star after 4-star after 4-star safety in the transfer portal. And none of these guys are signing anywhere yet. So I'm going to imagine we are going to have the opportunity to bring in some good safeties. I will be shocked if we do not bring in at least one solid safety to just beef up the depth at minimum in this cornerback room. Seriously, guys, I'm pretty confident Whittingham is going to go pick up a safety. Hopefully, it's a pretty big name and a guy that could really make an impact. But I would say worst possible case scenario, we've got Nate Ritchie, we've got Tao Johnson and Jonathan Hall, at least Nate Ritchie and Jonathan Hall potentially fighting for that starting spot. The problem there is who's playing corner. Obviously, we got Blocker and Snowden, but it's like, are we banking on them playing? So hopefully, just in general, we hit the DB transfer portal. So either add some depth to safety or to corner to give us more room at safety. But at the end of the day, I think we need to add depth to corner and we need to add depth to safety. Damn, dude, this has been a wild couple days where so many positions that looked real locked in, real good to go are starting to not look bad, but just kind of, a little concerning, a little more. Utah is a great program, guys, and we are blessed to just have good team after good team every year. But I would say, as a guy that follows football a lot, you want some safety plans, guys. And I don't mean the position safety, but like backup plans, right? You want some break glass in case of emergency because injuries happen, guys. Injuries happen, and some of these guys you expect to take that next step, guys, just don't. I hope they do, but we're not at practice every day, but betting on them taking that next step is not always a great idea. Like if they don't have the on-field reps to prove it, that can be kind of scary. So I think we're at a point, guys, where Utah will be a player in this transfer portal. I'm excited to see what that looks like. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that I know what that means exactly, but I do think Utah is going to open up. I don't think we're going to crazy overpay for guys, but we're going to bring some dudes in. We are going to bring some guys that want to play football and aren't just NIL concerned. We're going to bring some guys in. I'll be shocked if we're not seeing a decent chunk of transfers coming into Utah. Well, that's kind of what I know right now. I know it's not a ton, guys, but that's my thoughts on the matter. This news just broke, so I just jumped on and did this video. But please make sure you guys smash the like button. It'll help get it out to more Utah fans. Also, comment down below. Are there some safety targets that you guys are looking at? Do you think the room's good? Do you want more corners? I want to hear what you guys think. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We put out a ton of Utah Utes football content, and share the video with a friend if you'd like to. I'm out of here. Go Utes.